How are you all doing? Today is Tuesday, July 9th, and I am back with my Mocking Basket of WIPs video. This video has probably been the most requested that I make. I know I talk a lot about the Mocking Basket of WIPs when I am doing Flosstube or posting on Instagram or Facebook, and I always have a lot of you guys ask about what is in the basket, why I call it that. So I thought today would be a good time to share and show and talk about it a little bit. If you're brand new to my channel, welcome. My name is Olivia. Today's video is a little bit different. It's not an update video. I'm also not going to show any quilting. It's just for the Mocking Basket of WIPs. So I hope if you are interested in seeing a lot of cross stitch and you're interested in seeing WIP videos, I hope you'll stick around and see what I've got to show and talk about today. So the first question that I get asked the most is, what does the Mocking Basket of WIPs looks like? Well, it's just a plastic basket that I picked up from Hobby Lobby a couple of years ago. It works to house all of the project bags. It's the correct size and it just works out really well. It's very durable and it's worked really, really well for me. When I originally started collecting the projects into a basket, it was a sort of a rectangular, smaller basket, and it worked really well at that time because I only had, 3 or 4 projects going at a time, and of course now I have quite a bit more. The Mocking Basket has grown. So not only is it a 1 basket from Hobby Lobby, it's 2. So the purpose of today's video is basically to go through both baskets and see what I want to continue working on. By keeping them in the Mocking Basket, I want to reduce. I live in a small house, so storage is a huge issue. Having both of these baskets in my bedroom, one up on a shelf, one down on the floor, isn't really working out for me anymore. And I also realized that I'm not going to be able to get to working on everything right now. So I definitely need to condense everything down into 1 basket. So as I go through all of the WIPs today, I'm going to decide whether I want to keep it in the Mocking Basket of WIPs or if I want to send it back to my kitted basket, which is in the pit of despair. And no, I am not going to take you out there because it's hot, number 1. We've had, it seems like months of triple-digit temperatures here. And where the pit of despair is basically the garage that I've pretty much taken over. And it's only a few degrees cooler than what it is outside. So I'm not going to take you out there, and I wouldn't anyway because it's just a horrible disaster. But I do need to decide if maybe some of these projects just need to go into or back to the kitted basket from whence I picked them last year. One of the questions that I get asked quite a lot is, why do I refer to my basket of WIPs as the Mocking Basket of WIPs? The simple answer is, it's basically a basket full of projects that I need to get back to, and whenever I am working on anything or starting anything new, it just sits there and mocks me with all of the other projects that are waiting for me to get back to them. It also kind of started from watching an episode of Outlander. During the 2nd season, there's a character, I believe it's Bonnie Prince Charlie or Charles, and every single sentence he says, at the end of it, he says the words "mark me," but I thought he was saying "mock me." And so once you hear it, you can't ever unhear it. So you know, I got to thinking about, you know, mocking, and then of course the Mocking Basket of WIPs, and it just sort of stuck, and it's been that way ever since. It's just, I mean, it literally is a basket full of projects that constantly mock me to get back to them. The next question that I get asked a lot is, why do I have so many projects in the Mocking Basket to begin with? And I'm sure, I mean, I probably could get into it all day long about why there are so many projects. Basically what happened was last year in June, well, if you, maybe even before then, a couple of years ago, I had worked really hard to complete all of the projects that were in the Mocking Basket. I only wanted to be working on what was in the current rotation. So I worked really hard to empty out the basket. It was a lot of fun. And it was great having all of those projects completed. And then late last spring, I think it was Yvette. Well, I know it was Yvette, and then I think it was Carol Krego. They had decided to sort of challenge themselves. They were going to start a bunch of projects in June, and then beginning July 1st, no new starts, and they instead would load all of the projects up onto a wheel called the Wheel of WIPs, and then after they finished their assignments for the month, then they would spend the rest of the month spinning the Wheel of WIPs and then working on whatever the wheel told them, which sounded like a lot of fun, so I decided to join in. I was looking for a fun new challenge, and it just kind of came at the right time. However, for a few months it worked perfectly, and then in the fall of last year, I ended up starting a whole bunch of assignments with a group of friends, and before I knew it, I was spending the whole entire month trying to get my assignments done. I was not able to spin the Wheel of WIPs, which is why there are so many of them. So I ended up, I did a count at the beginning of this year, and I had 38 outstanding WIPs, including projects that were in my current rotation, meaning assignments. I have finished a handful of them, and I did a count today, and I'm at 34. So it kind of fluctuates, just kind of depending on my mood. I do occasionally start a new project just because I like to start a new project. It's fun, and so I do it. But at the end of the day, I do want to get the WIP count down. Now, a lot of these projects, I did start them in June of last year, and I might have only threw in a handful of stitches. I think I kind of discovered what Yvette and Carol, I really hope it was Carol. I should have asked, and I don't know why I forgot to, but I'm pretty sure it was Yvette and Carol were both doing it. But by the time Yvette told me what she was doing and I decided to crash their fun, it was sort of towards the end of June. So I really had to, you know, move really quickly to get, you know, projects started. I decided to pull projects from my already kitted basket. So that way I didn't have to buy any new threads or anything like that. Everything was ready to go. I just needed to decide and then go and pull it and start from there. So the majority of these projects only have a handful of stitches in them. So the majority of them are probably going to go back into the kitted basket. There are a few that I'm not happy with, linen choice wise or thread choice wise, and those ones are going to get ejected. So my hope is at the end of today's video, I have taken both baskets, and I only have the projects in the one basket, the Mocking Basket of WIPs, that I plan on working on from here on out. I do want to get back down to where I only have current projects in the basket, so it's going to take me a little bit of time. Maybe in a year from now, I can redo this video and see where I'm at. I do have plans to start a couple of new projects, and that's only because I have borrowed the charts from my friend and I want to make sure I get it back to her. So I do have some plans coming up, but today's video, it's just going through the basket, kind of like, you know, condensing it a little bit. And then that way, by the end of today's video, I only have what I plan on working on from here on out. Now, before I start showing projects, number one, I didn't iron any of them. 34 projects would take me quite a bit of time to get through, and I would be ironing for hours before I was ready to do the video, so there's going to be wrinkles. I'm also leaving everything in their project bag, so there's going to be zipping, unzipping, and crinkling, so if you do not like hearing that, you definitely won't like today's video. The other thing, I will not put up with nasty negative comments. So if you are a person that you are only here to drop a nasty negative comment my way, be prepared. I am so sick and tired of bullies. That is a pet peeve of mine. I do not like bullies. So if you're here to be a bully, just leave right now. I am not going to put up with it at all. And I'm going to tell you why. Back in 21, I did a WIP basket video. I was so excited to do that video and then to share plans for 2021. I think it was 21. It was either 21 or 22. And I had a lady who left me the most nastiest comment. Could not believe that somebody who claims to love the hobby of cross stitching would leave such a nasty comment. And as it turns out, I knew exactly who she was. And the thing that really, really, really made me mad was I had just seen her post a photo on her Instagram talking about how people just needed to be nice and to leave positivity, positive comments, be positive, be nice. If you don't have nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all. And I just saw red. I mean, I was just enraged. I could not believe that this was the same person who left that nasty comment on that video. And I have never forgotten it, never, never. And since then, you know, she continues to leave these on her Instagram. She will continue to post very uplifting, very nice. You know, we just need to love one another. We need to have patience. Every stitcher's different. All the positive things that you could say. And all I can think is, I wish I had her comment, because I would send it to her and say, you left this on my video and you have the audacity to then go onto social media and say, let's all be nice. I don't think so. So since then, I've really stiffened the steel in my spine. I don't put up with negative comments. I don't like people who are bullies. I just don't put up with it. So if you are someone who you love to leave those nasty comments, just don't. Leave right now. I don't want to hear it, and I don't care. Okay, let's get on with the video. So we're going to kick off today's video with Sarah Stewart Hardman by Needlework Press. So I started this back on my birthday last year. I'm stitching it with my friend Yvette. This one, once we finished Elizabeth Furness, we were supposed to do a lot larger segments on Sarah with the hope of getting her done either by the end of the year or the beginning of next year. Unfortunately, all those plans kind of changed, and instead we were just doing smaller segments. That way she's still getting progress, but just on a much smaller scale. So my progress on her is right here. And again, I am not ironing these, so you're going to see them as wrinkled as I see them when I pull them out of project bags. So I love this working on this one, and of course it is staying in the Mocking Basket of WIPS. My hope is to complete it at some point down the road. I am stitching this in memory of my great-great-grandmother, so I will be personalizing it once it gets a little bit closer to a finish. I also am hoping to put or stitch a treadle sewing machine on it somewhere, because I have her treadle sewing machine. It is across the room and I absolutely love it. And I'm so blessed that I am its caretaker and I take very good care of it. And I will be passing it down to my eldest granddaughter when the time is right. So it is being passed down to the oldest grandchild. So my grandma was the oldest grandchild. I'm her oldest grandchild, daughter, and then of course when I have I hope I have a older granddaughter, it'll be passed down to her, otherwise it will go to Allison. And then we have Grand Old Flag by Samplers Not Forgotten. My original plan with this one was to stitch it this summer and then hope to have it completed by the end of the summer or before the end of the year, and it of course did not happen. I really want this one to be completed at some point, so I will be keeping it in the Mocking Basket of WIPS. I have just a little bit of progress on it, So just, you know, a little bit of the border, but I really love this one. I've seen it finished in the last couple of months and I just love it. And I really, really want to get it completed. Now I think I am stitching it on a piece of the called for, which I believe is 36 count tin roof by Weeks Dye Works. And I just happen to have it in my stash, so it just kind of seemed like it was meant to be. And yeah, I love it. Tin roof is one of my favorite linens by Weeks. So I am hoping to get back to this sometime soon and then quite possibly maybe finish it by next summer. But it is staying in the Mocking Basket of WIPs. Next project is also going to remain in the Mocking Basket of WIPs, and that is The Shores of Hawr and Hollow by Carriage Samplings. I am working on this with a group of friends. It's being broken up into assignments. I did find out that on block 3, the assignment is just to finish it within 4 months. So I have completed June's assignment, and then I just need to do July, August, and September. And then the 3rd block will be completed. This is the progress that I made. So in my last update video, I was working on the mermaid. And after that video, I was able to complete the bottom portion and then fill in the water around the mermaid. Love working on it. It's a lot of fun, but I have heard that this particular block can be a little bit challenging, especially when you get up towards the top and it sort of has a lace, 2 lace motifs that you stitch in either corner. So I'm stitching The Shores of Hawr and Hollow on a piece of 40 count Prairie Grass by Seraphim Fabrics, and I'm stitching it with DMC. The other 2 projects, I know I failed to say the threads that I'm using. So on a You're a Grand Old Flag, I'm using called for threads. And on Sarah Stewart Hardman, I'm using Classic Colorworks, which is a conversion that is printed on the chart or in the chart. So Shores of Hawr and Hollow, I will be keeping it in the Mocking Basket of WIPs, and the lace that I am referring to on the block is right there. So lots and lots of fun. This next project, I am challenging myself to finish it by Christmas this year. I finished Halloween at Hollyberry by Stacy Nash before Halloween of last year. And this is another one that, you know, I want to have on my wall. And it is Christmas at Hollyberry Farms. I started this one not too long after I finished Halloween. The goal was to work on it a little bit every month, and I have not worked on this since March of this year. So it is one that I definitely need to get back to. I also, I was gonna do a new start on another Christmas project, but I decided not to. And instead I will focus on this one, trying to get it done by Christmas this year. And then once it's done, I will do the new start on the other Christmas one. But here is the progress I've made. So I was able to complete the border, which nobody does a border better than Stacy Nash. And then once I finished the border, I just stitched a little bit on the girl down in the corner and then on the fence that is in front of the house. So definitely need to get going on this one if I want to get it done by Christmas this year. I have an area where it will fit perfectly, and as long as I complete all the seasons, I will be able to swap them out seasonally. So I need to get this done so I have it to put up this Christmas. Threads I'm using are the called for, which I love and are not showing up very well because a lot of my house is the same colors, so of course it's just blending. But I love it. I love these colors so much, so I definitely need to get going. The linen I'm using is I believe 36 count, yes, 36 count Hogsbristle by Fox and Rabbit. But I love it. I actually was thinking about this one the last couple of days and working on it. So I think, because currently I don't have anything loaded up into the Q-snaps, I haven't even started working on my assignments yet for July. So I need to, I need to get on that. but I actually was thinking about loading this into my Q-snap tonight and working on it for a couple of days. So we'll have to see. The next project, this one's going to be really hard because it should stay in the Mocking Basket of WIPs, but right now I have very mixed feelings about it, and I feel like I might need to take or put it in timeout. And that is Plum Street Samplers Live on Little. So I do really love this one, but I think a lot of people are working on it right now, and I'm seeing it a lot, which I love, but I just feel like I'm not that excited to work on it right now. So I think it should stay in the Mocking Basket of WIPs, but I don't know if I will pick it up and finish it or work on it at all the rest of this year. So this is the progress I've made. Quite a bit more to go. There's a whole heck ton of fill-in. When I picked it up last time, I began working on the house because I want to make sure that the house fits, because I did make a boo-boo. So as long as the house fits, then everything else around it's going to get fudged a little bit. And I know I've talked about it in my Flosstube videos many times, but this is the progress I've made. Originally, I wanted to get this finished this summer because I thought it'd be kind of fun to complete it in the summer when Ethan graduates high school, because I worked on Liberty's Welcome and finished that the year Allison graduated from high school. You know, and who knows, maybe in a month I'll feel differently and I will be ready to work on this one. But right now, I just don't have any ambition to get back to it. So hoping that will change. It will stay in the Mocking Basket of WIPs. I just can't promise that it will get worked on, or promise myself, I should say, that it will get worked on this year. And I'm working on a piece of 36 count American Chestnut by R&R Reproductions, and I am using all of the called for threads, which they look frightful, but just a lot of beautiful summer colors. Beautiful, beautiful. So it's just one of those ones that I have to have better feelings about it. Right now, I just need to take a little break from it, and that's okay. But it's going to stay in the Mocking Basket of WIPs. It'll be there to mock me as it needs to, and that's okay. My next project was one I started last June when I was starting all the things, and it is called In My Garden by Blackbird Designs. I have not picked this one up since I originally put in the handful of stitches that I did. Don't even know that you're going to be able to see them. They're right here, and they're very fadey, which I think the whole drum is supposed to kind of be a little on the faded side. You can't see that line of stitching up there, so I'm going to go ahead and keep it. I'm not going to adjust or change it. But because this one doesn't have very many stitches in it, I am going to put it back with the kitted projects. Before I forget, this is a 28 count Gingham in Cocoa by Weeks Dye Works, and I am using all of the called for threads, and they're just all wadded up on this adorable cow. So at some point down the road, I will pick this one up and work on it, but for right now, it's going to go back in with the kitted projects. Next one is a project that I actually started the other day. It was kind of it's been really hot here, just very uncomfortable, triple digits, very miserable, and I've just absolutely hated it. And I just felt like stitching on autumn, so I picked up and started working on Jack-o'-lantern Sewing Pocket and Chatelaine by Stacy Nash. So I worked on this one afternoon and part of an evening, and I had just the absolute best time working on it. Progress that I made, I mean, it wasn't a lot of progress, but hey, hey, it's progress nonetheless. So this one will be remaining in the Mocking Basket of WIPS, and I do have plans to get this finished by Halloween. Still a long ways to go, but I absolutely love how the charcoal Weeks Dye Work thread is showing up against the Weeks Havana, which is what I am stitching it on. I believe it is a 36 count Havana by Weeks. And I'm stitching it 1/2, and I love it. Love it, love it. I think I've pretty much talked myself into finishing it as Stacy Nash did, so I need to peruse my stash and see if I can find some fabric that'll work. I'm not sure how I will display it around the house. It just might be something that I put out with some other little bits and bobs of Halloween goodness. Haven't decided yet, but I have plenty of time to figure that out. The next project that will be remaining in the Mocking Basket of WIPS is The Houses of Hawk Run Hollow by Carriage Samplings. I'm stitching this with a group of friends, and we have been working on block number 5 here. The assignment on that was also to, over the 4 months, divide the block up however you would like to, and then just make sure you complete it by the 4th month. So I think that this is month 3. I probably should double check. I think this is month 3. I know I have completed 2 months. I think. I better go check my notes. But this is the progress that I've made so far, and I know that this month I have not worked on it yet. So I love working on this one. I can't wait to have it finish at some point. It's still going to be a little while, but I love working on this one. I love the series, and I love all of the beautiful houses. I'm a huge lover of stitching houses. I mean, I'm just a big fan. And a lot of the stuff that I do stitch ends up having a house on it, and I just love them. They make me happy. So I'm stitching The Houses of Hawk Run Hollow on a piece of 40 count Heritage by Pictures of This Plus, and I'm using a variety of DMC threads, stitching at 1/2. And basically, when I begin a new block is when I pull all of the DMC for it, and I've been trying to match it based on the actual house, because a lot of the colors have changed as the year went on, and there's also a conversion. So the original was stitched with NPI, and then they did a conversion to DMC, and some of the threads spot on, some of them not so much. And I mean, that just happens with any you know, anytime you're trying to convert something. I mean, you're gonna have, you know, issues with maybe the color not exactly matching, and I'm trying to make sure that my houses look like the photo because I like that. So I do a lot of changes every month until I get it just right. I love working on this one. It's so much fun. The next project is His Eye on the Sparrow by Heartstring Samplery. I realize the majority of the ones that I'm shown so far I'm going to be keeping in the Mocking Basket of WIPS. This one is another one. I'm working on this one with my friend Michelle of Cozy Egg, and we've been having a blast working on it together. I will continue working on this one until it's done. We typically will work on it on Sunday nights, except the last couple of Sundays things have come up and I haven't been able to, so my Sunday ends up being Monday night. But I've been having an absolute blast working on it with Michelle, and this one will continue to be in the WIP basket because I do want to finish it before the next leap day in 4 years. So I started this on leap day this year. I do want to get it finished before the next one. The threads I am using, they're all tangled up, and a lot of times why I haven't really been showing the threads too much on the other projects is because they're not on a ring. They're just kind of thrown into the bottom of the bag, or they are really gnarly looking and it would take forever to smooth them down and make them look presentable. So this is the progress that I have made so far. I love it. I'm stitching it on a piece of 40 count, One More Reproduction by Stitch Me. I'm using all of the called for threads. It is such a yummy project. I'm enjoying this so much. And I got Michelle's permission to use or to stitch my house exactly like she did. So instead of it being sort of that brown, you know, beigey type house. She did hers in Gentle Arts Mulberry, and I love it. It's absolutely beautiful. And so I asked her if it would be okay if I copied her, and she said, of course. I'm super happy. So I will be doing the same thing. So last night I was able to begin working on the house. So I probably will do the outline of the house and then go in and do all the fill-in. The next project has two projects that are currently housed in it. I use a variety of project bags. I believe this one came from Amazon a couple of years ago. This one, originally the plan had been to try to get it done by the 4th of July this year, or to get it done in the month of July. And once the 4th of July was over, I completely lost my patriotic stitching mojo, and I decided to save this project and work on it next January. And that is Flag Folk by Not Forgotten Farms. So I actually had a bit of a boo-boo with this one. I started it on a different piece of linen, which was a 36 count eggshell. While I was working on it, I discovered there were some issues with some of the threads blending. And so one of the things that I kind of kept repeating over and over to myself as I was working on it was, I wish I would have switched to a different linen, or maybe darkened up the threads a little bit. And then a few days later, the original linen that I had stitched it on was hooked up into the Q-snap. I had it on my lap stand because I had been working on it. I had been working on the flag that's in this corner here, and I discovered I made a huge mistake. Not just one mistake, I made like several counting errors, and it was way bigger than it was supposed to be. I have no idea what I was thinking. I was so irritated because I basically had wasted 2 stitching days on it, or stitching evenings. And so I was really irritated with myself that I didn't catch that mistake before I did. But I made the decision to start it over, took it as a sign that, you know, I was meant to move on and, you know, pick a different linen. So the next day I went into my linen stash and I picked a piece of 40 count Time Goes By Seraphim fabrics, and this is the new start that I did. Got pretty much down to that pot and then decided that I was a little bit done with stitching patriotic. And one thing I'd kind of decided to do is in January work on some patriotic pieces. So perhaps Live on Little by Plum Street, and this will get worked on at that time. I don't know. But I feel like I do so much better with a seasonal stitch if I start it the opposite time of year. So I'm going to try something new, because a lot of times what happens is I kind of stitch in season and then it doesn't get done, and then it's years later and it finally gets done. And I want to try something new. So I'm going to work on some patriotic pieces in January, and I think this is going to be one of them. So for right now, this one will remain in the Mocking Basket of WIPS, because I do have plans to work on it within, well, basically a year from now, within the next, so if today was January 1st, I have plans to work on it within the next year, if that makes any sense. So I plan to get back to this one in January. I did swap out several of the colors and I made it a little bit darker. I like how it really pops. And the other piece of linen that I had picked, you couldn't see any of the gold. And like this was just kind of a mess. I mean, you couldn't tell what it was. So by changing it, I feel a lot better about it. But I definitely am kind of done working on, at least for now, this one, I'm kind of done working on patriotic. Except one of the ones that I do need to start, because I borrowed the chart from my friend, is a patriotic one, but it could also technically be a summer one. So that's what that's the exception. And this is the threads that I'm using, which you can't really tell. They're just basically like your traditional red, white, and blue. So So that one will remain in the Mocking Basket of WIPS. In the same project bag lives Summer Jubilee, which comes from the Souvenirs of Summer by Blackbird Designs. I worked on this one a little bit earlier this year. It was a project that I started last June. I just kind of went into my stash and kind of pulled the linen that I thought would work, and I had a lot of the called for threads except for a couple of them. So I went ahead and started it. I didn't get very far before, of course, I moved on to the next project, but when I went and I picked it up again this spring, one of the things that I quickly noticed was that I was having issues with the thread blending in with the fabric, which is 36 count tin roof by Weeks Dye Works. I basically got to this point and I was talking to Tara from Sully Stitches, and she had worked on the same one, and in talking with her, I made the decision to quit this project temporarily. The plan is at some point to go in and repull colors, just make them a little bit darker. I am gonna have to either unpick or get a different piece of linen. I do really like this linen, so I might just, when I have a free afternoon, I might just go in and unpick it and then restart it with colors that are a little bit more saturated. A lot of these are very pastel, and they were not showing up on my piece of linen. So I will take this one out of the Mocking Basket of WIPS, and it will actually get kind of put to the side on my work table out in the pit of despair. And at some point when I have time, I will repull colors for it and begin again. The next two projects live in this project bag, which you can get from the Fat Quarter Shop. They are great and they work really well in the Mocking Basket of WIPS. The two projects in here are the first one, At Home by Brenda Gervais. So I started this one back on the first day of spring with Michelle Cozy Egg and maybe Christy Crosshatch Quilts. I can't remember. I feel like it was her. I wish my mind was better. Michelle for sure, because she had talked about starting it in one of her floss tubes leading up to the first day of spring, and I'd like jumped right in. So I did start it, and this one is going to remain in the Mocking Basket of WIPS, even though that is the progress that I made. But I really love this one, and I would love to at some point be actively working on it. So for right now, it's going to remain in the Mocking Basket of WIPS. I believe I'm stitching it on a piece of 40 count Wren by Picture This Plus. And I am using all of the delicious called for threads, which some I had in my stash and then just a few I had to pick up. But I love this one. It's so beautiful, and I definitely would love to have it on my wall. It can be left out year round, which is another thing that I love. So definitely want to find the time to work this into my stitching plans. And because it shares a lot of the same threads with this next project, it is being housed with The Maker and the Mender by Brenda Gervais. I love this one so much. And I have a box that this would, I think, fit on perfectly. And so I definitely want to find the time to work on this one. I didn't even start it, but I threw it in the project bag because at some point I want to start it on this piece of linen, which is a piece of 40 count Confederate gray. And it seems so silly to, put it in the Mocking Basket of WIPS, but that way, if I ever get the desire to start it, all the threads are with it already. So we'll see. The next project, I also started it last June when I was starting all the things, and that is Land of Liberty by Brenda Gervais with the needle and thread. This one I'm going to kick out of the Mocking Basket of WIPS temporarily. I am going to try and work on it over the winter this coming winter. I'm going to try to work on it, but for right now I am going to take it out of the Mocking Basket of WIPS. I didn't get very far, and there's a thread, you know, hanging from it, but this is all the farther I got. I took this with me when my grandma was having, she was going into, she had a bit of skin cancer that they went in and removed. So while I was waiting for her in the waiting room, I worked on this one. So that's the only reason why it's in the Mocking Basket of WIPS, because when I first started it, I think I had like 4 stitches in. And then I just needed something small to work on. This fit the bill, so I grabbed it. And I have not worked on it since. So this one is going back into the kitted projects. And I am stitching it, I'm pretty sure, because again, I just kind of threw everything together. I believe it's a piece of 40 count vintage country mocha. And I'm using a variety of threads, because I had about half of the called for and then half that I substituted. So basically all I did was look at what the called for color was and then tried to find something in my stash that matched. So this one is going back into the kitted projects, and then at some point next winter, or if I ever get a wild hair to work on something patriotic, something small patriotic, I will pull this one out and work on it, because I kind of would like to get it done for next year, and then that way it can go right here in Ye Olde Trench Bowl. This next project, as soon as I saw the name on the project bag, I was like, I need to do this one. I need to stitch this one really badly. And that is Gathering the Greens by Stacy Nash. I think I started this one in June of last year. I did pick it up and work on it again at some point, but I really, really want this one done this year. I just absolutely love it. I love that big yellow house. I just love everything about it. And I need to find a way to work this into my stitching plans. I really love this one. I really, really love it. Here is the progress that I've made. I'm stitching it on a piece of 36 count gray by Weeks Dye Works, and I'm using all of the called for threads. Yeah, I think I need to work on this one. I really, really do. I really do. Because across the room, I have Cherry Hollow Farms by Stacy Nash, and I think this is about the same size. I think I could swap them out seasonally, maybe, or just leave it up year round. But I really think that I need to be working on this one. I think I need to work this into my plans. I think it's got to happen. I am using all of the called for threads, which they're pretty gnarly looking. They've been shoved into a bag forever and a day. But I really love this one. I really do. It's really calling to me very loudly. I think I'm going to set this one to the side, and I'm going to think about, because I need to find something to work on tonight, and I don't want to work on my assignments because I'm a procrastinator. But I think I want to work, I think I might pull this one out and work on it tonight. I don't know, but this one for sure, Mocking Basket of WIPS, it's staying. The next project bag housed 2 seasonal projects. The first one, and all I have is my working copy, and that is Letters for Santa by Brenda Gervais with Thy Needle and Thread. I love this one. A couple of years ago, Carol Saltbox Stitcher had it stitched. She had, I think she went to like a, with her stitching group, they did like an exchange, and then someone in her group stitched it for her, and ever since I saw it, I just really love it. I have a photo of her holding it and in my phone, and every once in a while it pops up as a reminder. So when I was starting all the things in June of last year, I decided this had to be one of the ones, and this is as far as I got. That's it. So I think this one I might leave in the Mocking Basket of WIPS, because if I can, I would really love to perhaps get it done this year. I think I'm going to leave it in there. Now I believe I'm stitching it on a piece of, I don't know why it's not written. I really need to maybe organize these ones a little bit better so that way I can just immediately pop in and see what it is I'm using. It is not written down. I think perhaps it is a piece of 36 count creme brulee. I feel like that one immediately pops to mind. I don't think when I pulled, I had all of the threads, but I basically just went and grabbed threads that look like the originals and then ones that kind of look really good together. So I think this one I'm going to keep in the Mocking Basket of WIPs. This next one I am also going to be keeping in the Mocking Basket of WIPs, and that is Gather by Pineberry Lane. This was another kit that my friend Yvette sent me, so I definitely would like to get this one done, and I actually forgot all about it until I pulled it out of the project bag. So I am stitching it on what would have been the called for, which I think was a piece of 36 count Old Mill Java. And prepare yourself for the major start that I made. All I did was stitch one sad little leaf up in the corner. So I would like to complete this one. Have a long ways to go. It's not too terribly big, so if I did decide to complete it this year by Thanksgiving, because I do decorate in November for Thanksgiving, it is only 4.5 by 4.5, so it's not like super large. So I think for now I'm going to leave it in the Mocking Basket of WIPs, and I am stitching it on all of the called for threads. This next one, I purchased it last year from Acorns and Threads up in Portland, Oregon. I saw Lisa Kindred Stitcher working on it and fell in love with it. I'm a huge Jane Austen fan, so this one was right up my alley, especially since it is called Persuasion. Persuasion is very much tied with Pride and Prejudice as my favorite Jane Austen book. I love this one so much, and I quite honestly thought that I would have this done by now. But then of course I started all the things, and then I ended up doing assignments with friends, and this just kind of got pushed basically to the very back of the Mocking Basket of WIPs. I think about this one all the time. So this one is definitely staying in the Mocking Basket of WIPs. It is Persuasion by The Stitching Parlor. So it's an adaptation that she did based on the Persuasion book. So if you've ever read the book or you watched the 1995 movie, Captain Wentworth, he writes this beautiful letter to Anne, and it's probably one of my favorite love letters. I love it. And I know that the word says, or the verse that she put, if a man has not a wife, he soon wants to be afloat again, meaning that he wants to go back to sea. I'm going to change that, and I'm going to put a phrase from the love letter. So that is one change I'm going to be making, but this one definitely is staying in the Mocking Basket of WIPs because I want to get this one done. I love it. I love it so much. I think about this one all the time. This is how far I got, and I'm stitching and on a piece of Weeks 40 count in the color Linen. And I need to get back to this. I actually was thinking about this one this morning, and I haven't pulled it out and looked at it since sometime last year, but it crosses my mind many times, and I definitely would like to get back to it. I love the colors. I love everything about it. The border is absolutely scrumptious. I have all of the called for threads all neatly wadded up together, and that when stitched on the sampler, they are beautiful. This next project is also staying in the Mocking Basket of WIP, and that is Butternut Tavern by Stacy Nash. I actually thought I would have this one done by now. I started it last year in June. I think I spun the wheel of WIPs and it landed on this one. I remember working on it. I love it. I want to get it done. The plan, once it is done, is to frame it. A lot of people will finish it into a pillow, but I don't have really any good place to display pillows other than in Ye Olde Trench Bowl. It's a little bit bigger pillow, so it definitely have to be like propped up somewhere, and so it would just be way easier just to frame it. I am stitching it on a piece of 40 count Dead Sea Scroll by Seraphim linens. I love this linen so much. I definitely need to get some more of it. Love working on it. 100% staying in the Mocking Basket of WIPs. Would like to get this one done soon. How soon, I don't know, but I love this one. Every once in a while I see someone working on it and I just want to drop whatever I'm doing and go grab it and start working on it. I love the colors. I love everything. I would pull all of the colors out of the project bag, but they're not on a ring. I probably should do that. I have a feeling I might have stolen the ring and that's why they're not on it, but they definitely need to get on one. So Mocking Basket of WIPs for that one as well. So we have finished one of the baskets, which is the original Mocking Basket of WIPs that hangs out in my bedroom all the time. And I'm currently working on the second basket. So I have a feeling it's going to be a lot easier to sort of eject these projects and put them back in with my kitted projects. The first one is Tree of Life Samplings Walk Beside. So this is a very beautiful piece and one that I just kind of decided back in last June on a whim to start. I am stitching it on a piece of something. It looks like Vintage Country Mocha, and I have a note that told me that I made a mistake when I started it, and I need to, when I pick it up again, I need to basically work left or right to left instead of left to right. So I have no idea what I would have done. These were just started at the very last minute, so I basically just started it to get some thread into it. That way it would, then I could spin the wheel of WIPs. So this one, I'm pretty positive, is a piece of 40 count Vintage Country Mocha. I am using all of the called for threads, which are not on a thread ring. They're just kind of wadded up in the bottom of the Ziploc bag, which is what they were in. So this one I am actually going to put back with my kitted projects. This next project was gifted to me, and I thought that I would be able to get it done this year, but unfortunately with everything that was going on, it kind of got pushed further and further to the side. And I actually think I might return this to my kitted projects for the time being, and that is Mount Vernon. It is a West Front cross stitch kit, and it came from Mount Vernon, which was so super cool. And I'm sure my friend has already finished hers. I probably should reach out and find out how she's doing. And I think it goes this way. So it's being stitched on a piece of Aida. I can't remember what count it is, and it does not, oh, it says 14 count. So it's being stitched on a 14 count Aida. I'm using the threads that came with the kit, and I'm stitching it 2/2. I also thought maybe I could take this to work with me and work on it, but I don't know that I have enough lunchtime to be able to sit down and do any stitching. I mean, I feel like I would no sooner start than I would have to put it away. So for the time being, this one is going to get put back in with the kitted projects, and perhaps in January when I sort of finalize my patriotic stitching plans, it might be one that I just sort of pop in with them because I think it would look great. I've kind of got a little collection going of George Washington themed patriotic finishes, so I think it would be kind of cool to have them all together on a wall. So definitely one that I need to consider putting in with those patriotic plans in January. The next project is by Birds of a Feather. It's called the Alphabet Sampler, and I'm not sure if you can still get this one. I know some of the Birds of a Feather kits are out of print. Occasionally I do see this one pop up, so I'm not really sure, you know, the status of can you still get this one, can you not? I started this one, it might have been before I think maybe I did start this one in June of last year. I don't remember what it is being stitched on. So that tells me that I just kind of went and grabbed something that was the right size and that I thought would work. But this is the progress that I made on it. So it is a good bit of progress. One of the things that I don't like is these white flowers are not showing up very good in person. I can see them in the viewfinder of my phone's camera, but in person, they're really fading out. So I think what happened with this one is I was working on it and I got to this point and discovered that perhaps I needed to switch it out to a different white thread. And that is where this one has kind of stayed. I am going to move this one to the Mocking Basket of WIPS because I would like to get it done at some point. When I do stitch on it, I can remember it went fairly quickly. I do love it. I'm gonna have to do some investigating to try to figure out what linen I used. I want to say maybe it was Weeks Cocoa. I'm not sure. What I will do in the description box is I will list all of these projects that I've shown today, and if I can locate what linen I might have used, I will list it there. But this is getting moved to the Mocking Basket of WIPS. All I need to do is pull a different color for the white flowers. This next project, Autumn on Lazy Bear Mountain by Kathy Barracks. I love this one so much. I really do. I see a lot of stitchers stitch on it. I see a lot of stitchers finish it, and I love it each and every time I see it, no matter the progress that's being done on it. But when I work on it, I feel like it's like pulling teeth. And I don't understand why. I started this one, I think back in 2020. I bought all the threads for it. I used Jen Lee Quirks and Stitches thread conversion that she shared with me. I stitched it on a piece of vintage country mocha, which I believe was the only thing I could get a hold of at the time. And then I abandoned the project when I kind of got like right here. So I have like all this upper portion done. So I abandoned it. And then the group of friends that I'm doing some assignments with, they decided to pick this up and begin working on it. So I decided to get the Vicki Clayton silks. I got all new linen and I started again, and it just, I don't know what my problem is. I don't know. I just don't understand. So this is the progress that I made. I'm stitching it on a piece of 40 count crypt cloth by Lappin Loops. The linen is wonderful, and I love the name crypt cloth, so I thought that it went perfect with this because, you know, it does down at the bottom have a graveyard, and then up at the top it's got a farm. It's just very Halloween-y, and it's very pretty, and I love using Vicki Clayton silks. So what I was talking to my friend Yvette, what we decided to do was, starting next month, we just pick 1 hour out of the whole entire month and we just work on it for 1 hour. And then that way, even though it's only the tiniest little bit of progress, it's still a little bit of progress. And like she always says, how do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time. So in August, I will start back working on it. It'll only be 1 hour, and then that's it. And then you move back to whatever it is that you were working on, and you wait until the next month. This next project, I started it last year at some point. I can't remember the exact date that I started it, but it's Florence Mary Dickinson by Hands Across the Sea Samplers. It's a beautiful, beautiful, gorgeous sampler. I love it. I worked on it, I think, for a couple of months, and then it just kind of got set aside. This is the progress that I made. I'm stitching it on a 40 count sand by Picture This Plus, and I'm using Vicki Clayton silks. So this one I am going to move to the kitted projects. I do have, you know, quite a bit more than just one little motif stitched on it, but for right now I'm not planning on actively working on it. It would spend more time sitting, getting in the way in the mocking basket. So I am going to move this to the kitted projects, and then at some point I will get back to it and work on it because it is a beautiful, beautiful sampler. All right. This next project, I think about this one every once in a while, and I actually get very irritated with myself because although I love the piece and I'm a huge Prairie Schooler fan, I cannot make myself get back to it. And so I get a little grumpy. And that is Summer Breeze by the Prairie Schooler. So this is one of the oldest WIPs in the Mocking Basket. I don't know what my deal is. It's being stitched on a piece of 32 count vintage country mocha. I am using all DMC. I only made one swap out because I didn't have that particular DMC in the stash. I thought I would have this one done by now, but for whatever reason, I do not. And so I made my way all the way down to the house, and so I just had that bottom portion to do. I don't know. I don't know what my deal is, but I really do need to get back to this one. So because of how far I've come on it, I need to leave this in the Mocking Basket of WIPs. I feel like it needs to mock me for a while, or to continue to mock me, so that way I get back to it. So I do love it. It's so pretty. I don't know what my problem is. I don't know. Drives me nuts. One change that I did was there's supposed to be a swan up here, and I just stitched, there's these 4 little ones that you can stitch. You can either put them together or, stitch them separately, and I just decided to stitch the crow who he's or she is holding a strawberry. This next project, I am actually not sure what I want to do. It's called Old White Farmhouse by Stacy Nash Primitives. I really like this one. I started it at some point last year. I don't know if it was one that I had pulled out and started in June. I think I did, and then I spun the wheel of WIPs and I worked on it once. I do really like it. I love the colors. They're all just really beautiful, all nicely, again, wadded up, because they've been living at the bottom of the project bag, but I love all those colors. I feel like it would go really good in my bedroom because a lot of these colors are in my bedroom, but this is how far I got. And I have a feeling that this linen was cut crooked because it looks like I'm gonna stitch it and it's just gonna kind of go that way, which is fine. It doesn't matter because it's not like an overly large piece. So I don't know. I definitely need to decide on this one because I do love it. I mean, I love anything Stacy Nash, so it's not that hard to say I'll leave it in the Mocking Basket of WIPs and stitch it, because I could stitch Stacy Nash all the time. So I think right now I will leave it in the Mocking Basket, unless I feel like the basket's too full, and then I'll just get moved to the kitted projects. But I am working on it on a piece of 40 count gray by Weeks Dye Works. Next up, we have Winter Rose Manor by Brenda Gervais with a needle and thread. This project is going back in with the kitted projects. I hardly have any progress on it. All I did was the corner, and that was it. I do love this piece. I know a lot of stitchers have sort of like a love-hate relationship with it, so hopefully I will not. But this is all of the progress that I made. So I'm stitching it on the called for 40 count Brenda's Brew. Before I even picked up the chart, I picked up this because when Brenda Gervais showed it on her Instagram, I fell in love with it. And then I picked up the threads and the chart later on, and I just sort of had this kind of waiting for it. I am excited to work on it. I think one of the things that I might have to change out, and what a lot of stitchers talked about, was the house color blended in really badly. So I might have to find a different color of pink to use. I think that's what it was. But I am excited to get to this one. And then there's another piece that she designed that came out that's also a Christmas theme that I would also like to pick up down the road. Not right now because I haven't got this one done yet. So this one is going back in with kitted projects. It is kitted up with all of the called for threads. Mary Bars is the next sampler out of the Mocking Basket of WIPs by Stacy Nash. This one is going back in with my kitted projects. Somewhere down the road, I will be working on this one. I believe after Sarah Stewart Hardman is done, this is the one that I'm going to pick up and work on with my friend Yvette. I do know that I'm going to be stitching this one for my grandparents. So I can't wait to work on it at some point down the road. My grandparents were farmers. They were berry farmers. And so I'll find some way to kind of incorporate it on this piece. And also up in here, you can't really see it so good, there's a verse. And I have a verse that I saved that I will convert and then stitch on it. So I have plans for this one, but for right now, it's going back in with the kitted projects. I currently have it stitched on a piece of 40 count vintage country mocha, and I'm using all of the called for threads, stitching it 1/2, but quite possibly between now and when I start this one again with Yvette after Sarah's done, I might find a different piece of linen, because I think I might want to go with something a little bit different. So that one is going back in with the kitted projects. Okay, so Out of the Mocking Basket of WIPs is The Bells on Christmas Day by Blackbird Designs. This is one I started in June last year, so there's hardly any stitching at all on the piece of linen. I really do love this piece, but because I don't have very much stitched on it, it is going to go back with the kitted projects. I am stitching it on a piece of 36 count oaken, which is the called for linen, and I'm using all of the called for threads, stitching it 1/2. I love oaken. It's probably one of my favorite linens. Every time you get a piece of it, the modeling is just a little bit different, and I feel like each and every piece, you could probably put them together and it wouldn't look like the same piece of linen. Same type of like color, but not like the same piece of oaken, because I have a couple pieces of oaken where the modeling is just, there's like a lot of it, and this one the modeling is, you know, more dainty. So this one is going to get moved to the kitted projects, and at some point down the road I hope to return to it because it's a beautiful piece and I've seen it finished and I love it every time I see it. Also from Blackbird Designs is What Remains. This is also one that I started back when I was starting all the things. I love it. I think it's so very delicate and pretty, and whenever I see it, I always think that I just need to get it out and start working on it again. I am stitching it on a piece of 40 count straw by Weeks Dye Works, and my start is hardly at all. So this is a project that also will go into the kitted projects. I am using Vicki Clayton silks, which I have them all in their floss away bags. I love Vicki Clayton silks. They're just so wonderful to work with. My next project was one that was sent to me as a gift, and I did think by now I would have it finished because it's a beautiful sampler, and when it first came out at market a couple of years ago, I fell head over heels in love with it. And that is Channing Street by Annie B's Folk Art. It's a memorial sampler. It's just so beautiful, and I really do love it. I don't really, you know, like if you take the whole sampler, I don't have a fair bit of it done. I only have some of the alphabet and a little bit of the outside border. So because of that, I think I'm going to move it to my kitted projects for right now. I do plan on getting back to this one at some point soonish, but because it would just kind of because it's just going to be hanging out waiting for me to get back to it, I'm going to put it in with my kitted projects. And again, I love this one. It's being stitched on a 36 count vintage country mocha. All of the threads look amazing on it. It's such a beautiful piece. The one thing that I like about it is down at the bottom, I've seen so many people stitch it different ways. So the designer put all of the animals that they had or that she had and sort of put them all down in here. And so I think what I'm going to do, and what I saw a couple people do, is they just did it mainly, they filled it in except for a couple of animals. And so I think that I probably will do something very similar when I get down there. but it is such a beautiful sampler. And this one, even though it's going back with my kitted project, it's very high on the to be worked on list. This next project is going to be going back into the kitted projects, and it is Harriet. I'm going to butcher her last name. I think it's Harriet Goddard, 1817 by Hands Across the Sea Samplers. I should probably watch the video where this one's being talked about. A lot of times before a sampler releases, Nicola on Hands Across the Sea, her YouTube channel, she'll show these and she'll say, you know, the correct pronunciations. I think I need to go back and watch that video so that way I'm not butchering poor Harriet's name as I work on it. I do love this one. The color palette is scrumptious. I'm using Vicki Clayton Silks. It's just absolutely beautiful, but I haven't got very much of it done. I'm stitching it on a 40 count Caramel by Seraphim Fabrics. And again, I would have only worked on this one evening. So this is going back in with the kitted projects, and hopefully down the road, well, I don't want to say hopefully because I do want to have this one done at some point, but down the road, I hope to, again, not hope, I am going to get back to it. So down the road, I am going to get back to it. But for now, it's going to live in the kitted projects pile. I only have 3 more projects left to show, and this particular project bag houses 2 of them. The first one is a chart by Tina Woltman called Gift Thanks, and at some point, so I had started this one in June of last year, and all I did was the little G, but when I was showing this in the video that I did after I started it, so it would have been, I think, the first part of July when I showed all of the ones I had started, I discovered I had put the G in the wrong place. I was supposed to put it here and then stitch this way, because I like to try to get the most out of all my pieces of linen. And if I were to keep going, I would have a bunch that I couldn't use for anything. So I try to position things so that way I can use it for multiple projects. So this one, I need to unpick the G and start it over here. Before I do that, I need to recalculate and make sure that I can do that on this piece of linen. So because of that, this project is being taken completely off the list. I'm gonna set it aside, and at some point down the road, I will unpick that G. I might restart this on a different piece of linen because I did kind of think about that when I was working on it. I feel like I was gonna have some blending issues with a couple of the threads. So this one I will set aside for another day, but it's being completely taken off of the WIP list and the kitted projects list. The project that was hanging out with it comes from Not Forgotten Farms, and I think this chart, I either bought the PDF or I borrowed it from a friend because I do have a working copy. It is called Home Place at Christmas. I really love this one. Love it, love it, love it. And I've seen so many people finish it, and I just really love it. And every time I see it, I think I need to get back to this and begin working on it again. I have the tiniest start on it, which makes me think that quite possibly I should put this back with the kitted projects for right now. So that is all I have done. So I might do that. There's a lot of DMC kitted up with it, so I might just unkit this one for the time being and then kit it back up with the DMC later on. Because even though I love it, I don't think I'm going to be able to have time to stitch it this year. I don't know. I might give this one some thought. I'm going to put it with the kitted projects, but definitely I'm going to think about it a little bit. I am stitching it on a piece of 40 count vintage country mocha. I basically had this big giant piece of vintage country mocha that I cut up for all of these projects. So I did have to swap out some of the colors, and the reason why the 2 of them were together is because they share some of the same thread. So I think maybe for the time being I'm gonna leave them together until I sort all that out. Anywho, So these two I'm gonna just put in with the kitted projects for right now. And I'm gonna leave myself a note to go in and kind of figure some stuff out. So I've sat here for the past 5 minutes trying to decide what I should do with this piece, whether I throw it in with the kitted projects to be stitched later or leave it in the Mocking Basket of WIPs. I love this piece. It is so absolutely fantastic, and every time I see someone working on it or they finish it, I just think to myself, why is that not done and on my wall? And that is the Noel Sampler by Brenda Gervais. I've just had a love affair with this one for so long, and I have loved it even more since I saw Carol Crago stitch hers on a piece of 36 count vintage cedar plank. And Yvette so kindly sent me a piece of the linen so that I could copy Carol. If you haven't seen her finish, she's on Instagram, Carol Crago. I'll put her Instagram name down below. You just got to scroll back a little ways. She has such amazing pieces. She's a quilter. She stitches beautifully, lots of eye candy. Definitely go and check not only her current stitches that she's finished, but then this one too, because it's absolutely beautiful. And it fits in with my sort of like moody winter vibe. I love those days. And so everything about this piece speaks to me, and I don't know why I haven't just said, I'm gonna work on this and finish it. I mean, obviously I have a long ways to go, but I love this so much. And I think about this one a lot. So this one's definitely staying in the Mocking Basket of WIPs. But I need to figure some stuff out. I feel like this year I definitely have been, my aim has been to get more Christmas done. And I've got some pieces. I've got 2 frame, I went and picked up frames yesterday, so I got 2 that I need to work on that are Christmas, and then I just finished one. And I'm just trying to get more Christmas done. And I feel like this one is one that I need. This one and Gathering the Greens, and then Christmas at Hollyberry. But that's 3. That's 3 Christmas projects, and I don't want to burn out, but I love them all. It's so hard. I wish that I had more stitching hours in the day. I wish I had an hour lunch at work instead of half an hour, but then I like getting off at 5 o'clock. I wouldn't want to get off at 5:30 for my hour lunch. These are the threads. They've just been wadded up in the back of, or the bottom of the project bag. Yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll pull out the Noel sampler, I'll pull out Hollyberry Farm and Gathering the Greens, and I'll have a realistic conversation with myself to see if I could quite possibly work on them and get them all done by Christmas this year. And if I were to do that, would I burn myself out of Christmas and not want to work on anything Christmas related for a long time? Because I don't want to do that. So I took a little short break so I could go through the Mocking Basket of WIP off camera. I decided to eject 2 more projects. One was Old White Farmhouse by Stacy Nash, and the other one was Summer Breeze by Prairie Schooler. So both of those are now going to go back in with the kitted projects, and at some point down the road, I will work on them again. So the total outstanding WIP count is 17, which that's not bad. I thought maybe I could get it down a little bit more, and I might go through the WIPs again in a couple of days and just kind of look at them and see how I feel. Am I really going to get a chance to work on them soon, or are they just going to sit for another year waiting for me? The goal of today's video is basically to make sure anything in the Mocking Basket of WIPs was something that I want to be working on and I could possibly pull and work on. I only want ones that I know that I can actively work on. And if in a couple of months I still haven't worked on them, I will eject them then as well. But I'm basically just trying to get my WIP count down, and I feel like this is a really good opportunity for me to do that, make things a little bit more doable. I don't mind having a humongous WIP count, but I like to sort of take small chunks and just focus on that small chunk until I've whittled it down, and then I'll take the next small chunk and whittle it down. That's just kind of how my brain works. I tend to procrastinate if things get a little bit more. So I like to make everything very doable for me. Today's video was so much fun to make. I hope you guys enjoyed it too. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down below. Everything I've shown, I will make sure to put down in the description box with what kind of linen, what threads I'm using. I definitely know that I need to do a little bit better in organizing what it is that I'm using for linen and threads. That way I can just pull it out and this is what it is, instead of trying to like paw through the bag to find out what thread I'm using or what linen. So organization is definitely something that I need to work on. The plan for me will be to be back in 2 weeks with my regular update video. So I hope you guys will come back and join me then. Thank you so very much for stopping by today. And if you'd like to see what I'm up to in between videos, you can follow me on Instagram at Pumpkin Hollow Quilts, or I do have a Facebook page called Pumpkin Hollow Quilting, and I'll put a link to both of those places down below. Hope you guys have a great couple of weeks, and I will see you all again soon. Bye.